You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey all, welcome to another Friday edition of the Cards to the Moon podcast. This is episode 135, and my name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com. With me, as usual, co-hosting is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards. And John, he actually just got called away last minute for work, so it looks like it'll just be us two, but that's all good. So off the top today, I want to talk about the Druw Jones 1 of 1 Superfractor from the 2023 Bowman set that was recently pulled by Best of Ohio Sports Cards. And according to their IG post, they say it was the, quote, car rip of a lifetime.
It was a car rip?
It was a car rip.
No
Can you
way.
imagine?
Oh, that's kind of amazing.
Yeah. And I think our friend and occasional guest host, Will, he joked that his car rips aren't the same.
I don't think none of ours are.
Yeah. Well, I can truthfully say I never pulled a Superfractor either in a car.
Wow,
But anyway, what do you think the card owners should do next? Because we know that Dave and Adams, they have a $250,000 bounty on it.
Oof. Or
you can hold and see if Druw Jones makes it to the Hall of Fame and then cash it in for $1 million. That's another offer by Dave and Adams. And a third potential option is to sell it back to Druw Jones, who apparently commented on the Best of Ohio Sports Cards IG page. And this is what he wrote. Let me get it.
you gotta pay the bounty, at least the bounty. Start a bidding war.
Yeah,
but I think that's amazing that you have Druw Jones involved in that as well. But he's gonna. I hope he knows. That's probably the most valuable card of his. So I'm sure I'm sure his family has a bit of coin to pay the ante.
Yeah, just ask his dad, right?
but I think the play here is I think it's obvious here. Like, you got to sell it. You got to be an idiot not to sell it.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. No. We talked about this in a previous episode, so we're kind of revisiting this whole debate or issue. But I think it was unanimous. Even when John was here, we're like, you got to sell it. You got to take the $250,000. Right?
And the last time we talked about it, I think Druw Jones was hitting $175, and I mentioned that. And Nothing has changed.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He hasn't been playing, so I'm just saying, and this is crazy. We look at Superfractors that have sold in the past, few years, and this is kind of like the hype, but that was given, like the Dominguez, I think was like $474,000. It was sold, and then the Wander Franco was substantial, obviously with the Trout, going for 3.94 in the height as well. So I think there's too much of that hype right now, and I don't know if Dave and Adams, I guess they could assume that it's great marketing, and at the end of the day, if Druw Jones becomes what he's supposed to become, they would basically it would be worth the $250,000, but that's a strong gamble to make, in my opinion. If I'm going to say there's a player that I'm going to invest $250,000, it probably wouldn't be Druw Jones, in my opinion.
Right. It could be, like you kind of mentioned, it could just be a great marketing play,
Right.
Like everyone's talking about it. Even we're talking about it on our podcast.
Right.
And Slapstocks, they're an influencer. They actually talked to the owners of Best of Ohio Sports Cards, and it looks like they said they haven't decided, but it appears that they will most likely take the $250K. And it's because they're like, it's not, they wanted to say, it's not because we don't believe in Druw Jones that we're holding to see if he makes the Hall of Fame, but it doesn't work within our time frame, which is fair enough. You got to wait a long time.
Yeah, you're going to wait 20 years. That $1 million in the rate we're going, geez, it's going to be like, $100K.
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to put things into perspective. So we're both on the same page. Take the 250K. That's the best thing for you to do. But I want to put things into perspective in terms of how difficult it is to get into the Hall of Fame in the first place. You know,
Right.
it's a very low percentage. There's
For
a lot
sure.
of professional ball players, and you got to have a longevity in your career and all these other contributing factors. And it's at the end of the day, it's subjective too. You know, you got people voting you in, right? So
Yeah,
that's something
that's
you can't
right.
control. But I'm going to look at it more objectively by citing some stats of some players who currently aren't in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we're going to ask, do you think Druw Jones can be better than
Oof.
player XYZ? Okay.
That's
So
tough.
I'm going to start with a player that is close to being the Hall of Fame. He hit 381 home runs in his career, 295 batting average,
Ooh.
5-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, 3-time RBI leader, and he finished in the top 5 of American League MVP 3 times. And this guy is yet to be in the Hall of Fame.
American League.
Yes.
Oof.
This might be for a while, so I'll tell you the team.
Okay.
Cleveland, formerly known as the Indians. Power hitter.
Albert Bell. Joey Bell.
That's right. Albert Bell. Didn't make the Hall. And he's in this
Crazy.
special ballot consideration. I think they have a loophole, or not a loophole, but you can consider people after their eligibility
Right.
based on these special committee members. So
I will
he
say,
might get a chance.
I will say Albert Bell, like for me, like I grew up watching Albert Bell.
Me too.
He was unbelievable. And I think if he played a longer career, I think
Yeah.
he would be a shoo-in. But he's played maybe like 10 or 11 seasons, you know,
Mhm.
and obviously in the height of the junk wax era. So he gets absolutely no love, even in the hobby perspective, but absolutely not. I don't think Druw Jones, like that's a big shoe to fill. You know, you're talking about one of the best players in that generation for sure.
Yeah. So exactly. That's why I wanted to kind of put things into perspective. Okay. So
good
that
one.
was the top guy. I'm going to go like tier lower. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell me if you think he could have a similar career. This player hit 393 home runs, 284 batting average, 4-time All-Star, 8-time Gold Glove Award winner, won the Silver Slugger once, and he was top 5 of National League MVP 4 times.
4 times.
And the team he played for was the St. Louis Cardinals.
The Cards.
The majority of the time, yeah.
Give me an era. Is this guy retired or?
Yep.
So
Yep.
these are all retired.
These guys are all
Okay,
retired.
Cards. Who would? Cards. I'm lost, Clark. What do we have?
Okay. Jim?
Tomei.
Nope.
No.
Jim?
Tomei's in the Hall of Fame, right? Oh, he's not even
I
St.
think
Louis
so, he
Cardinals.
is. He's
Jim.
Cleveland, right? Jim Edmonds.
Jim Edmonds, the catch. I totally forgot about Jim Edmonds. These guys are all in the junk era.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think the
Okay.
next guy too is will be in the junk wax era. Okay, I'll just get right to him. 328 home runs, 283 batting average, 2-time All-Star, 1 Gold Glove winner, and he was a member of the 30-30 club 4 times.
Okay.
And he played during the peak of his career. He played for your Toronto Blue Jays.
Toronto Blue Jays. And sorry, say that again. Like, what was his accomplishments?
328 home runs, 283 batting average, 2-time All-Star, 1 Gold Glove winner, and 30-30 club 4 times.
30-30. Who 30-30 for the Jays? I should know this, man.
There's a lot of players.
That 30-30? Derek Bell?
No.
No.
He's definitely in the, I think when I was researching him, he's not in the Hall, but he is in the Jewish Hall of Fame.
Sean Green.
Yep.
Sean Green. You know what's so funny? I was actually talking about Sean Green today, which is crazy.
Oh, really?
And I was saying how underrated he was,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think he was around a 40 WAR guy, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So
I'll have to double check.
Perfect example. Like he was an unbelievable player with the Jays when he was there. I think he was a young, 20-year-old when he got called up, and then he struggled his first couple seasons, and then he started absolutely raking, dropping 40 plus bombs, 100 RBIs, hitting 300, and that's like you look at nowadays, like nobody's doing that. Like, I mean, if Judge had a season last year, obviously the Otanis and stuff hitting 40 plus, Vladdies, that's a rare, like a group of people that are able to do that. So to expect someone like Druw Jones, look at Andrew Jones. Andrew Jones was a hell of a player, right? Yeah. So you can't be saying that this guy's already better than his dad, because Andrew Jones, is, multiple Gold Glove winner, which, Druw Jones is a plus defender, has, all the tools to make it. But, you're talking about Andrew Jones, 60 plus career WAR, and to, have that expectation that he's already there, as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old, right?
That's a good point. And I was, for fun, going to give you his father's stats. Andrew Jones, 434 career home runs, 254 batting average, and like you mentioned, 10-time Gold Glove winner, 5-time All-Star, and a Silver Slugger winner.
Unreal career.
And still not in the Hall yet. So he's getting close, though. Andrew Jones is probably the closest.
I think he's a shoo-in, to be honest. I think he's done enough for the game that he'd definitely be a candidate.
Yep. So there you go. A little bit of perspective. This is what Druw Jones has to do, if not better, to get into the Hall of Fame. So sell that card. Get your $250K. And we'll see what they actually do with it, and we'll talk about it on the pod when that decision is made.
Quick question. What is David Adams going to do with the card?
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Because, hey, it's a low-key...
They can't flip it.
Well, yeah, I know. That's the problem. No one's going to pay that money unless Druw Jones becomes unbelievable, right? And then they could look like a genius, right? But just to put it out there, Jason Dominguez, he's batting $198 in AA. Just putting out there.
Wow.
474,000 at the height of the peak, right? How's that treating you?
Maybe it was just part, like we said, maybe it was just David Adams as part of their marketing budget.
More power to them. You know what? If they have that kind of marketing budget, then I'm all for it. So,
yes, sir. So we'll see. All right. For the discussion today, I want to spend a bit of time on what's happening in the playoffs. And like every year, there's always players who seem to rise to the occasion and play their best during the playoffs, which may or may not impact their card values. So I thought we could talk about some of these players and see if we would buy their cards or perhaps sell if you think the playoff push or their playoff performance is a good sell high moment. All right. So let's do the NHL playoffs when John's back, because he's our resident hockey guy. So for this episode, we'll just focus on the NBA playoffs. And let's start with the Nuggets. And we talked a bit about this guy last week when Brian, Cajun Cardboard, was on the show. Nikola Jokic. You buying or selling Jokic?
Oh,
he's like
right now
all the accolades right now as the best player in the league.
Yeah, and I think the Nuggets are going to win, another championship. So I think the resume is stacking up for Jokic, but I think you're buying into the hype again. Like we say this all the time. It's playoffs. Yeah. His prices, we said his prices were, rising last year, and, it was a good buy opportunity at that point. Looking at it now, I think his prices have started to reach to the point where, it's starting to become kind of like overpriced. Not overpriced in a sense, because I still think he's holding his own in terms of value. I just think based on where his prices were, I think a lot more people are jumping on that train, especially with lower pop counts during those years. So I don't necessarily mind the purchase for a long-term purchase, but I think it's just the wrong time to buy. So I would wait in the next 6 months or 5 months before making a move on Jokic. But I think there's value there, but I think it's pricey right now. it's a good sell.
So how about if you had, if you had it, you would try to
I
sell?
would sell now, yeah, probably, and maybe try.
Okay.
It all depends on what I had, right? If I have super rare, I'm holding. If I have something liquid, even like a prism, which is, still rare in that year. So I would, in my opinion, I would sell and then try to get back into a card that I'm able to get in. Or if it's a rare card, I probably hold.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I guess just to clarify, I believe this will be, if they win, this will be their first championship.
Oh, it's first.
Right?
Okay.
I'm with you. I think the Nuggets are they got all the momentum right now. And to your point, I was just looking at his base prism, PSA 10. And in 2015, it was definitely, the pop was way lower than 2018 and onwards.
Right.
You're looking at under 900 pop for PSA 10. And it's one of these like W shapes. It goes, you got the peak, it went up, and then it went kind of back down. And now it's back up, obviously, because of the playoff performance. And I think I would sell too at this point, because probably in the off season it'll probably come back down. You could always get back into it later. So I'm with you. How about Jamal Murray? He's a little bit different because his card prices aren't as high as Jokic, right? So
for me, he falls into that category. If we were in 2021, I'd be like a buy. I think he has a good overall package of who you want as a player and to invest in a young stud, especially, Kitchener, Ontario kid, for us. But, that doesn't really matter in the hobby. But yeah, I just think there's a lot of young hype still. And I think there's going to be a period of time where no matter what Jamal Murray does, I think it's going to sit sideways. He's at that point where, if he continues to progress and starts doing, top 5 amazing things, we're talking about top 5 players in the league, like that type, I don't think he's there, or he will get the hobby love where prices could continue to grow. In that sense, there might be some buying opportunities just because at one point Jamal Murray was low. So there might be some cards that I think could be a good buy. But I think in general, again, you're in the height of, playoff time. So I think it's a good time to sell, and potentially rebuying, in the off season.
Yeah. If you want it for the PC, like his base PSA 10 prisms are pretty affordable. You know what I mean? But you could have got it for $50 a month ago. It's going for $150 now.
Yeah, I'm selling them right now. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So it looks like it's the same pattern with Jokic, but on obviously doesn't cost as much for a Murray basketball rookie card. So
yeah, I would be more comfortable buying a Jokic, even if it's more, than a Murray long term. Even though the buy-in prices is higher, I just think that there's a lot more opportunity, playing that game long term. Right. And, instead of, gambling on kind of like a younger market,
Sure. That's a hard one for me, because then that discussion we had with Brian last week with the investability in big men kind of comes into play for me, at least, because 2 years ago we're saying almost the exact same thing about Giannis when he won the MVP before Jokic won back to back, and his market is kind of like, other than his really high end ones, his card market is kind of sideways too. You haven't seen a
was it because he was overpriced to begin with, where he didn't have he had the initial hype, right? So that's where and I'm okay with investing in someone like Giannis, because now you're talking top 5. Jokic is the same way, top 5 at the end of the day. It's like Jamal Murray. You look at baseball equivalents, Bo Bichette comes to mind, all these stars that are 24, 25, 26, they're starting to become that height of their career. They're going to have to do this for another 6-7 years to get notoriety. Even Jokic is pretty young, relatively young, but he's done so much in such a short period of time that I think that's where now people are seeing him. He's in the Steph Curry type, LeBron James, the top 5. That people chase, right? So that's just kind of my 2 cents. It's one of those A type stocks versus, a B type stock.
Sure. No, that's fair for sure. I'm just afraid of big guys. I guess it comes down to that, and the longevity of their career. So it could be for me a good short to mid-term play rather than a long-term play. But Jokic is just phenomenal right now. He is ridiculous. So doing historic things, that's for sure. Okay, I got two players, and I'm gonna choose two from the Miami side because I know as of this recording, actually they're playing Game 5 right now, and the Boston Celtics need to win 3 more. They were down 3-0. They won. Never in the history of basketball has it happened. So I'm going to go with the odds here that Miami is going to go ahead at some point and win. And it is crazy. And anyway, the thing about Florida, with Florida going on in the NHL, being the 8th seed and Miami being the 8th seed going on to the finals, something's happening in Florida. I don't know what it is.
It's unreal what they're doing, actually. Like, both teams, the Panthers and the Heat, like, just, taking a team that was like non-existent, just barely made the playoffs into, being like unstoppable, like literally unstoppable.
Yes. Like when we say they have the momentum, that's like an understatement. You know what I mean? They're just, steam rolling everyone in their way. So I'm going to pick Miami Heat for our example here. Of course, we got to talk about Jimmy Butler, Jimmy
underrated.
Butler is one of those, underrated in terms of his career too. Like, 100%. But then the knock on him is like in the regular season he just seems kind of average, but then he becomes beast mode in the playoffs. 100%. So what are you doing?
Honestly, I'm a Miami Heat fan. Just in general, if there's a basketball team I follow, it's always been Miami Heat. And if Jimmy Butler is so quiet during the regular season. It's just when he shows up, he wants to, he'll drop his 20 a game and he'll be happy with it. Come playoff time, geez, next level. This is what he understands. This is his way of playing in terms of keeping that longevity and sustainability in his career. It works for him. And you know what? He is a very impactful person in the NBA. Like, there's no way anybody just takes kind of like that 8th seed team. And this is without, Tyler Hero, who, had a pretty decent season this year again, and having, that support off the bench. It required Jimmy Butler to step up like huge, right? And he did. And he has nothing but stepped up in the playoffs. And this is not just this year. This is every year that we're talking about that he's the go-to guy. And he's just, in my opinion, underrated in terms of hobby. Plus, even in the NBA as a player, I just think that, a lot of people don't, show the love that he deserves. But from a hobby standpoint, I get it, a bit. But I do like kind of like the marriage between the two in terms of where Jimmy Butler is in his career and his rarity of cards and his card prices, because I think they're reasonable. I still think they're high right now because of, what Miami has been doing. And if you see his prices over the last couple months, it's been, I think, on a steady incline for the most part. And it's a good marriage in terms of collectability because the scarcity, very low pop, even his silver, I think, is probably within, 30, 40, maybe less, in his silver prism. And you see Zion, right? We talked about this all the time. Right. How many silver prism? It's not the same silver prism is what I'm saying. So back in the day, that's definitely the card you want, or any numbered kind of like gold, even, that's a massive card, right? So I think there's good buying opportunity with Jimmy Butler in certain cards. But I think right now you're definitely going to get kind of like the high end part of it. So it's a mixture of kind of like the markets, some are overpriced right now based on his performance, but some might be under the radar just because Jimmy Butler's been under the radar for the last, 5-6 years or whatever it is, right? So
yeah, I hear you. I think for his base, like, it's kind of the same story with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Like, the playoff performance is definitely giving him a small bump, so there's selling opportunity there. But for his higher end ones, his more rare ones, even the Silver Prism like you're talking about, I just look at the PSA 10 pop count is 21.
Wow,
for Silver Prism.
So rare.
2012.
Yeah, that's so rare. See, that's not a bad long-term investment in my opinion. It's like you believe in Jimmy Butler. Right. You like him as a player. You want like a rare nice, like classic card, that Silver Prism is kind of like your go-to, right?
Yeah. And if you look at the Silver Prism, the PSA 10, like it hasn't been going upward because there's not a lot of sales, so there's no trends, right? And the last one sold May 22nd, so just a few days ago, for 1737.
Wow. And I bet you that was probably 60% or so increase from the last sale, whenever that was, because there's not too many that kind of float around, right? So
yeah. So to your point, $900 in April.
Oh wow, yeah, there you go.
So
it is,
right
yeah,
there.
And that's not if you look at it, it's like if I said, you know what, I'm gonna go long term on 1500, I would overpay technically for that card for a little bit. It'd be fair market value, I'd say. It obviously has a huge bump to it, but I don't think that's a bad $1,500 investment. Especially if you like Jimmy Butler. In the next 3 years, I'm going to enjoy Jimmy Butler with this card, with that mentality.
Yeah. And I think, what a good comp might be is seeing Carmelo Anthony retire. A lot of the accolades are coming to him. I think when Jimmy Butler, he's, closer to retirement than not.
Right.
I think it's going to be the same thing. People are going to give his, tributes to him, and then you can see a little bump there. And you just hold on to the card that you buy now. And yeah, I mean, if you look at 2022, May of 2022, his card was 3,000. So it's half of what it was last year. So it's not a bad buy for his rare cards.
Right.
So I think we're agreeing there. All right. I wanted to bring up one more Miami player. He hasn't played because of injury.
Oh,
but
boy. It's my guy.
Tyler Hero. Yeah, we talked about him in our first year of our podcast. We all loved him. And of course, didn't pan out the way we hoped. And it was during the hobby hype. But he is an integral part of the Miami Heat.
For sure.
And it looks he's still a young guy, can still definitely grow and contribute. So what are you still into Tyler Hero? Or
I honestly like Tyler Hero as a player, what he brings, his skill set, his marketability. Like, I love that. He might not be a Miami Heat, and I don't necessarily love that, to be honest. But he's also been limited in his role as a Miami Heat. I believe, he started for a bit, and, he plays so well in that sixth man role that I don't know if, there's rumors, even more recently that he might, Orlando's like a potential team, right? So I don't love when players get, traded or, onto another team. I just think it could go both ways in terms of their price. And I know Tyler Hero had a little bit of hype during that COVID bump. So I think he's going to be sitting sideways for a while unless he does. Like I said, he has to be a top 5, top 10 player to move the needle. Unless his cards are absolutely so cheap that it can only go up if he plays decently, right? So, I like everything there, but I have a courtside gold wave. I love that card. I still have that card, and I probably couldn't even sell it for $400 now. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't necessarily love him as much as I did in terms of a buy now. And I think he still has somewhat of a hype and somewhat value to his cards. So I'm a sell with Hero, especially he's not in playing, and his cards definitely have taken a hit with it. Yeah,
it's tempting because I'm looking at his prices. It is pretty cheap, right? I'm just looking at the Silver Prism just as a gauge overall, with liquidity and everything. And the hype, December of 2020,
900
sold 1,500.
Wow.
in December of 2020, and it's going for $100 last sold price. $100. And the Popcat's not too bad, $846 for a PSA 10. It's not Zion.
I sold a couple at like 900. I thought that was the peak, but 1,500. Wow.
You sold some at 900? Wow.
Yeah,
okay, that's
it wasn't bad. Yeah, I was in like at four and change, and then it's like, these Silver Prisms there's too many.
Yeah, that is true. And I'm with you. Like, there's a cap or a ceiling to, players that are 6-man type. And maybe he could step up in a different team like you're mentioning.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ifs there for me that I'm not willing to take that risk. And I'd rather spend $100 even on another player, right? So,
Right.
All right, there you go. We got, I think, out of the 4 we mentioned, we're a buy on Jimmy Butler, and the other 3, sell, and then you could buy back in hopefully later. That's the strategy. All right, that wraps up today's Friday episode. Thanks again for joining us. We thank all our listeners and subscribers. If you liked what you heard, we appreciate you giving us 5 stars wherever you do listen to your podcast. And we'll see you with a brand new show on Tuesday. See you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.